This is lesson 6.3, the third video, C, and we are on example 3 on page 549 in college algebra. And what we're going to do in this section here is we're going to talk about hyperbolas where the center of the hyperbola is not on the origin. So it's just like the ellipse, the circles. When it's not on the origin, that means the center is at a position called HK. So the formula for that is, it's just like the x squared over a squared, only we have to, like on the other ones, subtract an h and subtract a k. And a k then ends up being with my y, of course, since it's the second part of the coordinate, and that equals 1. And that gives me different numbers. If you look at the top of page 549, it tells you your vertices are h minus a k and h plus a k, and you know, things are pretty typical. You keep track of those formulas and you shouldn't have any trouble doing any of these problems. So let's go ahead and do this first example here, and they gave us quite a long one. 4y squared minus x squared plus 24y plus 4x plus 28 equals 0. Now what they're interested in is you graphing it. And remember, to graph it you need the center, you need the vertices, and you need the foci. And when you find your A, B, and your C, in order to find the center, the focus, the foci, and the vertices, you're also finding the little rectangle there with your A and your B in order to draw your asymptotes, which makes it really easy to draw. So let's go ahead and get moving here. We're going to take this and rewrite this. So we're going to take and make it 4y squared plus 24y minus x squared plus 4x, and then we'll put our 28 on the other side there. Okay, and that's going to turn into a 1 eventually. Alright, so now let's look at this. We can't solve that using completing the square unless we get our coefficient out of there. So we do that, and then we'll leave a space there for our third term. And now we're going to put a minus, and let's go ahead, and we don't have to do anything with this one. We'll make that a minus 4x so that when we distribute this minus here, that'll turn into a positive. And then we've got a space, and then we'll make it equal to negative 28. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our completing the square here. So we know that this term right here is going to be half of 6 squared, and we know the term over here on the other side is here is going to be plus half of 4 is 2 squared is 4. Okay, so before we get too far here, since we added those two numbers that I have in red, we need to add those over here to the minus 28. So let's do that. This is actually, we added 9, but we really added 9 times 4. So we're going to have to, let's just do that in red again, add a 36. And again, we have a plus 4 here, but this minus is distributed, so we really subtracted 4. So let's subtract 4 there. So that ends up giving me negative 28 plus 36 minus 4 is a 4. Okay, so that's what we get there. So let's go ahead and write what we've got. We have a 4 and y plus 3, the quantity squared, minus x minus 2, the quantity squared, equals this 4 right there. Okay, so there we have our completing the square, and we'll get some of this stuff out of here so we can look at it easier. So there's our equation that we want, and is it written in the right form? No, it's not, because we still have a 4 right here, and that needs to be a 1. So let's go ahead and divide each of these by 4. So that will cancel. So that gives me y plus 3, the quantity squared, and I have to put it over something, so I'm going to put it over 1. And this is going to remain x minus 2, the quantity squared, and that's going to be over 4, and then that will equal 1. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Alright, so we've got just another step here. We got to make this in the right form, so that's going to be y minus negative 3 quantity squared over 1 squared, so that we know that this number here is my a. Okay, so, and we're going to say minus x minus 2, the quantity squared, and we're going to put that over 2 squared, so we know our b is 2. Okay, so therefore we know our center is these points right here, negative 2, negative 3, because again this is my x, so it's going to be different. See, you're going to look at this and go, oh, my center is negative 3 too. No, this is with my y and this is with my x, so my center is actually going to be 2, negative 3, because again this is my y value, this is my x value, so 2, negative 3. I also know that a is 1 from this right here, and I also know that b is 2, and then I can go ahead and find my c using my c squared equals a squared plus b squared. So I find out my c is the square root of 5. Okay, so that's all the information that I need, is my a, my b, and my c. Once I find that out, I'm good to go. And I also have my center point there. Okay, so you can use the formulas on the top of page 549. And in this particular one, we're going to use the bottom one where the transverse axle is vertical, simply because my y is first. And the formula says when the transverse axis is vertical, the y comes first. Then I can find my vertices, and then my asymptotes, and my foci. So let's particularly look at, just with this information that I have right here in white, let's go ahead and find out what we can do here. This, our a, is, we said earlier that our a was 1. Okay, so I'm going to graph. There. Said my center point was at 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So my center point is right there. And I know that I have a vertical transverse axis. So I know that my transverse axis is going to go this way. And I know that my a is 1. So that means that all I do is go up 1 from my center point to here, and down from my center point there. And then remember I said we draw a line through my vertices here, or my A's, which ends up being my vertices. And then I look at my B. My B says that it's 2, so I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go 2 this way and 2 that way. Do that in red, so 1, 2, 1, 2. And draw my line there and there. Okay, so I'm going to draw my asymptotes in green here. And there's going to be a line that goes through here, and a line that goes through here. And this is my vertex, and this is my vertex. So I can draw my hyperbola like that, and my other hyperbola like that. And just as easy as can be, I have my hyperbola drawn. Alright, so that is the end of section 6.3.